Hello and welcome to the Radical Podcast, inspired by the essence of the word radical, proceeding from the root. We explore the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
This season is all about divination, tarot, and the power held within our intuition. This is The Radical with Nicole and Christina, the two metaphysical girls in the material world.
Hello, welcome to the Radical Podcast. This is Christina.
And I'm Nicole.
We are covering the Tower Tarot card today. I want to say this quote before we even get started. The wound is the place where the light enters you. That's a quote by the Sufi poet Rumi. That is one of the themes of our Tower card.
And the Tower card is the card for Mars, which is why we're talking about this card during Aries season.
Yeah. Yes. This is a card ruled by the planet Mars. I'm going to go through my list. Then we have card comparison. We've got Nicole's collection of words. I love that. The title of that section. And the message from the universe. The universe sent, well, we're recording this during a full moon, and the full moon sent me a direct line of information, and I changed the tarot deck. Well, I was planning to use an oracle deck, and now I'm using a tarot deck. Direct line of communication from the full moon today to use this deck. I've got some good straight up messages from the universe.
I also have some notes in a section that I am calling connecting the thought dots. I had this whole fun brainstorm that happened as I was working on my notes for this card.
All right, let's go. I want to talk about the qualities, properties, and attributes, correspondences of the Tower Tarot card. The card name called the Tower, and also, listeners, you may have cards that are called Lightning or the Lightning. In the tradition of some of the older decks from France, the picture on it was a tree being struck by lightning with the shepherd. This card is Roman numeral XVI 16. The element is fire. If you're doing a yes or no card pull, this card is a no. The zodiac sign is Mars's Aries, but the planet, the ruler of this card, is Mars. Mars holds spiritual meaning, and it's centered on action, passion, desire, and the inner warrior. I really like the thought of Mars and the inner warrior. I keep putting that in all of my notes related to Mars. It's your warrior. It's your inner warrior. The planet has fiery energy. It's about willpower. It gives us a drive to achieve goals, that assertiveness. And also there's an element of survival instincts, taking passion into action, encouraging to take charge attitude or leadership. And it's a very courageous and courageous planet, shall I say, the energy of Mars. Mars rules the first house, the house of self, the mantra I am, but classically, Mars ruled the 8th house, which is the house of transformation. The mantra of that house can be I desire. As we're thinking about the Tower card, the 8th house vibe might be more closely tied to the energy of the Tower card, transformation. The Hebrew letter is Peh, P-E-H, or P-E-I. The symbol is the mouth, and beyond mouth for this word, it also represents the spoken word, expression, testimony, the power of speech to either build up or destroy. The meaning is chaos. And the tree of life, the tower rules the 17th pathway, the pathway between the 8th sphere of Hod, ruled by Mercury, the sphere of majesty, thanksgiving, and intellect, and the 7th sphere of Netzach, ruled by Venus, which is the sphere of victory, endurance, and passion. The chakra associated for this card in my book that I reference, it has the crown chakra and the root chakra for heaven and earth, which I totally get the meaning for. As we think about this card and the meaning of it. We think about the symbols of security, and the lightning and the fire being symbols of purification, of integration, of instantaneous understanding. I really was vibing the thought of root and crown. Remember, we were talking about how the cards have they're the fool's journey or the hero's journey, and the cards 15 through 21 of the Major Arcana represent the final intense stages of the fool's journey, leading from shadow work to ultimate integration and completion. That's where this card falls in that hero's journey. And the themes of that in the fool's journey is it's done. There's no going back. Old paradigms need to perish. And this is also in that story, the shakeup. And in stories, this is also the revelations. When you receive that piece of information, like when Luke and Leia found out that Darth Vader was their father, you can't go back after that. Like, that information, like, that changed the trajectory of their lives, the twins of their lives. That's the tower card.
I love applying Star Wars wherever possible.
Yeah. And for the crystal, again, the book I reference has red carnelian and red jasper, red from Mars. And also, I think there's a fiery element of the tower card, but also red always makes me think of root and security. So the red could also be to help you strengthen and stabilize your security as you're facing this card. Also, smoky quartz was a crystal I saw over and over again, because as the tower symbolizes a sudden change, upheaval, and revelation, smoky quartz is a stone of grounding and a stone of transformation. Smoky quartz is good for releasing and releasing. I don't know if I like to think about crystals absorbing negative energy, but they do. And then you've got to cleanse them. And I'm pretty sure smoky quartz is a good absorber of negative energy. And then so that helps with emotional stability as you're facing your tower card moments. I have a smoky quartz tower. Look at that. In my own collection. I'm showing Nicole, but I'll take a picture of it when I do the tarot cards. But I love everything about smoky quartz for this card. I love that it's smoke, like fire, like that, you know what I'm saying? So it has that imagery of that. And then these types of crystals are called crystal towers or obelisks. They have a point at the top too. What do they call that? A single termination of the crystal. Mine has 4 sides, which for stability for the emperor. And I feel like this would be the stone I would go to if I am dealing with tower energy. We can move into some of the symbols from primarily the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but as we move into card comparison, a lot of the symbols have echoes of that. And the first one I want to talk about is the lightning. You know what? What are the chances of being struck by lightning? What kind of luck do you have to be struck by lightning? You know what? I looked it up. It's 1 in 15,300. That's your lifetime odds. In a year, your chances are 1 in 1.2 million. That's like your yearly chances. And that's from the National Weather Service. And the risk of being struck by lightning is fairly rare. It increases during the summer, afternoon hours, and outdoor activities, but roughly 90% of victims survive. So I'm obsessed with the lightning on this card because to me that's the feature that that gives me the energy of this card more than the tower. Then I thought of Mars and I was like, is there lightning on Mars? Yes. Yes, there is. There is direct evidence of lightning on Mars, confirmed by NASA's Perseverance rover in late 2025. But rather than the lightning we have here on Earth, where it's based around like weather systems related to water and air, on Mars, they are small, dry electrical discharges called mini lightning. And it's produced by the friction in the dust storms and that Mars has on its surface. So it's all about the lightning in this card. And lightning symbolizes sudden change, upheaval, spiritual awakening. And in some Eastern traditions, lightning is a symbol of negative karma being cleansed. And that is a whole nother story of lightning that I didn't go down. Karma cleansing lightning.
I have a quote from my guided tarot book. She explains that the symbol of the tower itself represents the structural foundation that your life is built upon, while the crown is symbolic of ego being shattered by the lightning bolt of illumination. This powerful card tells us that falling apart is a necessary step in our journey, allowing the next phase to arise in its place. I pulled this description specifically because there's not religious, specifically like Christian language. One of my books talked about the lightning as the wrath of God, for example, and Christina and I discussed how those concepts and that type of language does not resonate with us. There are those types of interpretations that exist and are available if you want to look them up and read about them. But one thing that I think is important for both of us in this podcast is looking at these cards through a modern lens without those religious interpretations and how the patriarchy shows up in this card.
I mean, the history of this card and its influences are very readily available, listeners. If you want to learn more, or if you already know the history of it. But the tower is a patriarchal symbol from the patriarchal religions that were influencing the creation of tarot decks throughout its historical growth in Europe. And it's a symbol of security, structure, protection, and it's man-made. Like I said, some lineage of decks had a lightning striking a tree. It was a different symbol, to a different symbology to mean the energy of this card. But there's a lot of information out there on that, listeners. Like Nicole said, you can do a deep dive into the various stories of where that tower came from and why is it on the decks that we have today. But the destruction of the tower, it energetically, it means it's a revelation. And for me, it's a destruction of false beliefs, cultural beliefs, the things that we've been told and taught being taken apart. And sometimes we take it apart brick by brick, and sometimes we take it apart all at once. The falling people can symbolize loss of control and liberation from constraints. And there's so many different versions of people falling from the tower, and they have been depicted as actual historical people. They have been representatives of people who were innocent, people who were evil. There were some mythological creatures that have been falling out of the tower. But essentially what I like to think of is they're not, in my eyes, not victims. They have been released from the constraints of the tower, is how I see the falling people. Nicole and I talked about the drops of divine energy, the yods. The yod is called that, those golden dots. There's 22 dots, and that's for the original 22 Major Arcana cards. And I don't know how much modern cards are sticking to the number of dots, but originally it was 22 to represent the original 22 cards. And the Hebrew letter yod is shaped just like the little shape of the yods in the card, and it's the smallest letter representing a tiny dot to symbolize the spark of creation, the beginning of all creation. So even though the tower is being destroyed, those yods are there to show that divine inspiration is behind it.
It reminds me a little bit of the yin and yang symbol. Like in destruction, there's creation. There's that little spark, even the smallest, teeniest little bit, that there's that interdependence in those two forces of nature.
Fire is a part of this card, that the fire is often started by the lightning bolt, and the fire is purification. It's a controlled burn so that new growth can return healthy. And it's change and rebirth as well, fire. And that is that house of transformation, that fiery 8th house Scorpio. I always think of that, fire and rebirth. And another element that I didn't think about a lot of times, and we'll get to the card comparison, we'll talk about this more, the background of this card, that pure darkness, there's usually no stars in the sky, represents the complete envelopment, envelopment of the tower by complete darkness. And what is that darkness? Is it ignorance? Is it victimization? Is it a lack of knowledge? Is it, what is that darkness? That's for all of us to interpret, but that card is represented with that darkness to show how all encompassing and enveloping that darkness is. So the themes, we've already talked about them. The lightning is a symbolic, shocking moment of truth that shatters our perceptions and makes us reassess our beliefs. That's from tarotcake.com. That's it. The lightning is that shocking moment of truth that shatters perceptions. And you can't go back. So the burden of truth, you can't unlearn that piece of information that you learned, or that integration of information that you've known, but it didn't quite fall into place, and then it falls into place, and then that's it. You can't go back. Where this card falls on the hero's journey, it shows, and this is from the Eclectic Tarot website, that you tear down resistance to change by changing your perspective in the Hanged Man. You come to terms with the death of the ego and death in death. And then you hope you learned about moderation and synthesis and temperance and the devil, overcoming your addictions and overcoming your base desires. And then here's the Tower, that if you haven't done the work, like you physically have to do something, in the Tower card, it's like you don't have to do anything. The truth is coming for you. or the truth has already landed on you. After those steps to get here, the integration and the lightning bolt has struck. It has fallen into place. And to soften that, I want to say the wound is the place where the light enters you, from Rumi. Because the star comes next. The star is the next card after this card. And we can't carry all of our crap with us into the star card.
Mm-hmm. I have more to say, but it's part of
Yeah.
my connecting the thought dots section.
Yeah.
So
And
we're going to circle back.
one more thing. I read that this is called the anchor of the deck. It's the heaviest card. This is your point of no return. And I know you've got more on this.
I do. We're going to talk about the number 16 first. The number 1, new beginnings, standing on your own. The number 6 is indicative of attraction. The 1 and the 6 together, you can think about it as drawing the right people or things towards you. Things like experiences, circumstances, opportunities. It's kind of like what Christina just said. The tower is kind of like you're not doing anything. It's happening to you or for you, depending on your perspective. So that idea of drawing that experience to you. From Alana Fairchild's book, The Messages and Numbers, she says, sometimes receiving what we want has just as much to do with what we are willing to let go of as it does with what we are willing to open up to receive. And the tower, I think, is that force that can help us let go or really does the heavy lifting, depending on what we've done in those prior cards that Christina talked about. The Hanged One, and Death, Temperance, and the Devil. She also writes, when the 1 and the 6 appear, if you have any issues with yourself or another, or work, or anything at all, really, the message is to adopt a different, more feminine approach, meaning a more yin approach. Don't try to figure it all out logically. Come from the heart, surrender it, build up your energy by relaxing and attracting a solution to you through faith. Then act on that. And I think with this card, there is an element of surrender for sure. And letting the process happen. And we'll talk more, I think, about that throughout. So for my thought dots, when we talked about the 5, 6, and 7 of cups during Scorpio season, I believe I mentioned this idea that the 5 of cups could be sort of a mini tower card. The 5 of cups is Mars in Scorpio, the traditional domicile for Mars. And therefore, the corresponding Major Arcana card with Scorpio is the Death card. And then, of course, because it's Mars, we're also dealing with the Tower. In that podcast, we talked about the suddenness of the Tower's influence in the 5 of Cups can cause and create trauma. Trauma comes from being flooded with emotion and being sort of overwhelmed and unable to process what's happening in the moment. We also, for this card, the decanical interpretation that we suggested was the sting of Scorpio and the shock of Mars. But in the 5 of Cups, 3 cups are knocked over, 2 cups are not knocked over. And there's a bridge in the background taking us to a new place. And this is all about the fact that we always have a choice. And I think that same idea is very much present in the tower, even if it's the choice of how we look at what's happening to us. Oh, this is happening to me. This is happening for me. We have a choice. We can surrender, or we can try to go in place. We can cling to what we know instead of allowing the tower to crumble.
Mm-hmm.
Christina already said that the card that comes after the tower is the star. So of course the card that comes after the 5 of cups is the 6 of cups. Similar kind of energy and idea that there's hope or this little bit of sweetness. For the 6 of cups, this is the sun in Scorpio. So we thought about the resilience of Scorpio and the vitality of the sun. In our podcast, we talked about the concept in the art kintsugi, where broken pottery is restored and fortified using gold. And the 6 of Cups conveys this sense of not regretting anything that happened to us because it placed us exactly where we needed to be. And so that change or that movement from the 5 of Cups to the 6 of Cups feels very much like the Tower moving into the Star card. And I just made a little note here that the Star card is the card for Aquarius, and that Uranus is domiciled in Aquarius. And one of the significations that we talked about when we did our podcast on Uranus is Uranus brings like a suddenness. That's one of its characteristics. So just kind of interesting how
Mm-hmm.
all these little bits are fitting together.
I read that there are some schools of thought that have Uranus with the Tower card as Uranus being a ruler
Mm-hmm.
or having influence in the Tower card as well because of that exact same thing, the suddenness. And also, Uranus is about um, revelations and realizations
Mm-hmm.
and going against sort of the status quo type of thing. So if you're looking at like the patriarchal structures or the the man-made structures, it makes sense that Uranus is there to smash them down when they're no longer serving you.
Yes. With the 6 of Cups, I had also noted the mortality of Scorpio's death card and the joy of the sun as like another potential kind of sort of decanical interpretation. But when you combine the mortality with joy, you kind of get this like everything is impermanent and you can hold these moments that punctuate our lives, the good ones and the bad ones, with maybe a little bit more sweetness and a better outlook that, again, these things are happening for us. When I look back over my life so far and my past tower moments, I can see now, retrospectively, how those moments were rerouting me and ultimately, I think, gave me the greatest gifts of my life. For card comparisons, my first tower card is from the Zodiac Tarot. It's very similar to the Rider-Waite-Smith tower card. We have a bolt of lightning striking a tower. There's not a crown, but the cupola of the tower, like the very top part of the tower, is struck by lightning, and that is what is breaking off and falling towards the ground rather than the crown. And what's interesting is the number of windows.
Hmm.
There are 4 windows on this tower rather than the 3 windows in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And for whatever reason, what popped into my head was the 4 levels of consciousness. I was
Mm.
like, is that a thing? And it is. So perhaps, I mean, one way that I thought about looking at this was these 4 levels of personal consciousness: victim mentality, blaming something external for what's happening, taking personal responsibility and stepping from blaming into empowerment, surrendering to like the flow of the universe, And then the fourth level would be oneness or unity. And isn't that, in a way, what the Tower can teach us? How to shift from victim mentality into personal responsibility, surrender, and oneness.
Okay. The Spirit Song Tarot. It's called The Tower. The animal that the author chose is the chameleon, and the two keywords are release and revelation. First thing I'll tell you is that a group of chameleons is called a camp. But
I like that.
but chameleons, they are generally solitary. They do not hang out together in groups. Did you know that the word chameleon is derived from Greek? It means ground lion.
No, but I love that.
Yes. And now that I see it, it's like Leon. Yeah, chameleon. Ground lion. Okay, they're famous for changing their color. Their color changes for temperature, communication, mood, and also camouflage. Their eyes, they can see fully 360 degrees around themselves, and they can look at two different things at the same time. Can you imagine if we had that ability to look at two different things at the same time? Like, what kind of like brain capacity would we need to do that?
Yeah.
And they have
How metaphorical, though.
and they have that long, super fast tongue to catch their prey. So, as a spirit animal, the chameleon energy appears when you need to adapt to changes in circumstances rather than forcing situations. Chameleon energy encourages you to align with your surroundings, but maintaining your true identity. And there's an element of aligning your inner life with your outer life. So you're changing and adapting, but you are staying authentic to your true self. The author writes in their guidebook, chameleon is the shaman of adaptation. Seizing the power of cloaking, he changes color to blend with his shifting surroundings. Life is change, and you have the choice to either accept change or resist it. So that's the energy of the chameleon. And that is the energy of Tower. It's another way of looking at it, that change is happening. How are you dealing with that change? That's like the chameleon spirit animal energy.
Yeah. And that choice, the 4 levels of consciousness. Are you going to choose victim mentality or personal responsibility? In the Medicine Woman Tarot, this card has been renamed the Pierced Shield. And the picture, the art on this card is pretty much that. A bolt of lightning pierces a shield. And on this shield, there's sort of this like ethereal winged creature that sort of makes up the largest part of the background of this shield. And then sort of layered on top, we have an eagle, a lotus flower, what looks to me like a lotus flower, a turtle, and a fire. So we have a lot happening on this card. The eagle conveys an idea of rising above and gaining a higher perspective. Because eagles molt, this can be a symbol of shedding the past and personal transformation. And eagles also symbolize strength, resilience, and boldness, and leaving comfort zones. What looks like a lotus to me conveys, I think we've all heard no mud, no lotus. So this idea that, or the energy of overcoming adversity and transforming into something beautiful. The turtle can symbolize our sense of home within ourselves and cultivating safety. And the fire symbolizes the Phoenix Rising archetype, which I think is very appropriate for the tower. And also, like Christina mentioned, fire as a force of purification.
Mm-hmm.
In the guidebook, she writes, "Your higher self is breaking out of its shell. The phoenix rises from the ashes. A greater person is emerging."
For the wild unknown, it's card XVI 16, the tower. Unexpected upheaval is the key phrase for this card. And we have a black background, completely black, no stars. And then there's a tall, triangular shaped tree. It's white, it's silhouetted. It's like a photograph negative, right? That the tree is white and the background is black. And two lightning strikes are striking the top portion of the tree, breaking off two sections, the very top part of the tree and then another piece of the tree. The author writes in their guidebook, when the tower card appears, it's time to brace yourself for a change. The well-rooted tree that's been growing strong for decades is crashing down around you.
In my Antique Anatomy deck, there's a pile of black skulls surrounded by what I think are possibly black carnations and then black honeybees. The color black can symbolize releasing, banishment, protection, power, and wisdom. The pile of skulls could be suggesting the end or like sort of the death of egoic identities, past versions of ourselves, and old attachments. The carnations as flowers can carry the meaning of emotional clearing and heart-centered truth emerging. And honeybees could suggest rebuilding after collapse with more intention and alignment. That all fits, makes good sense to me. And then in Mystic Mondays, we have a tower made up of kind of like 6 individual pillars. There's sort of this like I don't know if this is the right word, but there's sort of this like holographic quality to this card that it sort of looks like there's some pillars within, some taller pillars. There's kind of this like 3D sort of magic eye type
Mm-hmm.
quality to the illustration. But the tower's being struck by 2 bolts of lightning. And I kind of went down a teeny tiny rabbit hole about like holograms and stuff to see if there's anything there. And there's a physicist named David Bohm that suggested the universe operates like a hologram where every point in space holds information about every other point. And this just made me think of like when we're in a tower moment, asking ourselves things like, what can I learn from this tower moment? What is the universal truth that is available to me at this point?
I have the Secrets of the Witch's Garden tarot deck next, and that is card XVI 16, Tower, keyword release. And this card has a purple and indigo sky, like a thundery, like that dark thundery kind of thundercloud sky. And a lightning is striking an ancient tree, which is causing a tree house that was built in the tree to begin to fall to the side. The tree is being ripped apart. The tree house is ablaze, and 2 children are falling to the ground. But there are 2 badgers and a fairy holding a blanket to catch the children. They're not in any danger. And the author writes in their guidebook, the secret of the tower is emancipation.
I love those 2 animals with the like blanket ready to catch them. It reminds me of that meme of the hand flicking the person off the cliff, and the hand is like labeled, "This is the universe," and then out of the person's line of sight because they're at the top of the cliff. They can't see the other hand of the universe ready to catch them.
It's the
I
universe and
love that.
also, yeah, the universe
Yeah.
and also the universe. Yeah, that's that
Yes.
card. Yeah, I don't,
Wow.
some of the details of this card make it not my favorite tower card. Again, because a tree is being struck by lightning. I have a lot of sensitivity about that. I don't, but I like the continuation of the story of the falling people,
Yeah.
that that mother nature, that the universe is gonna flick you and catch you.
Yes.
That's the
I love that.
continuation of the tower story in that card. I mean, I might not like that. Like I said, I don't like that it's children, but I like the, you get more story in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the Light Seers tarot deck, I'm sorry to say, Christina, that a lightning is striking. It's hard. I wrote tree. It could be like a tree stump, but it is some kind of like natural, maybe it's like a mound of dirt with
It looks
grass
like
on it.
it's the house of that little creature.
Yeah. So it is like a something natural. We have lightning striking like a tree or a tree stump. There are 4 monarch butterflies taking flight. There's a squirrel looking up at the lightning bolt, and then kind of off to the side we have 2 acorns. And the acorns to me are make me think about like the bursting sort of fiery energy of Mars at the springtime, like that energy that's required for the seeds to like burst through their shell. And the butterflies, I think, really capture the energy of transformation and metamorphosis. And a
Mm-hmm.
metamorphosis from kind of what Christina was talking about earlier, like there's no going back. The butterfly cannot go backwards and be a caterpillar again. Like you've crossed that threshold. You've gone too far. This is like your new reality. And the 4 butterflies, the number 4 makes me think of the emperor. That ties that in. And then the little acorns off to the side sort of make me think of like the gift of the tower and being a source of like sustenance and nourishment through through this moment. In her guidebook she writes that this card conveys magic in the disguise of unpredictability. But that's a mindset shift.
Mm-hmm.
We have to choose to hunt the good and look for the magic in the disguise of unpredictability.
And my last card for the tarot is from the Sacred She Tarot. It's card XVI 16. The author has named this card Crisis. In the center of this card is a personal, like a single cup, daily, mundane, white cup of coffee or tea or water. And that cup and a cup and saucer is being struck by lightning. The top of the card has that completely black, starless sky or backdrop. The cup is sitting on a light blue surface. And do you see that strip of red pink horizon? To me, that is the sunrise to come. The drink is spilling out of the overflowing cup. The lightning has tilted the cup, and it's like waves in a stormy sea. The liquid is rushing out of that coffee cup. And there's a bit of an element of wateriness in that blue table or whatever
Mm-hmm.
the cup and saucer are sitting on. That looks a little watery to me. But this is just like your cup of coffee, your routine, your personal, daily, mundane, everyday sort of thing. And that's where the lightning strikes. That's when the lightning strikes.
Mm-hmm.
And the author writes in their guidebook, we grow wise not from being comfortable, but from being nudged, shaken, and jolted awake to see that life can sometimes be most supportive when it utterly wrecks our dreams.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah, that cup of that imagery of that. I mean, and to me, because the cup is a product, it's man-made, it represents routine, it represents, cultural norms. That cup is as a powerful image to me as a tower being struck by lightning,
Mhm.
because that's our personal dose of daily mundane consumerism, or
Mhm.
uh you know what I'm saying.
It's also a part of like our day that can just become so routine that it's like there's a mindlessness quality to it. And a lot of us probably can resonate with making our cup of coffee while we're like still half asleep. So that
Yeah.
phrase being jolted awake really stood out to me because that's what the tower is
Huh.
doing.
Just think, how many times have you been in a treehouse? I can count on one hand, but how many times have you drank a cup of coffee? So
Mhm.
this makes that tower moment, that lightning moment, feel more tangible and more everyday than one of the four times I've related to being falling out of a treehouse or a tower. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Like, that is a strong image for me.
Yeah. It's also like that notion like your life is bound to change on like an idle Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So my last card is from the Muse Tarot. I love how the light seers and the muse is by the same person and they're so
Mhm.
different. They're so different. So in the muse, we have a figure dressed in black standing on a singular black rock. And off of this rock, there's like a teeny tiny little person who's falling away. And above the figure standing on the rock, there's like these crumbling black rocks that sort of, I think Christina sees it like, or at least she initially saw it like a little bit different than me, but I see the rocks kind of giving way to the bolts of lightning and they're kind of striking down on her. But I think you could also see it as like she's initiating the lightning strike up and crumbling those rocks. I think it could go
Mm.
either way. But regardless, this card makes me think of mental conditioning and outdated identities falling away.
Yes.
And if this figure is generating the lightning, which then travels upwards, it feels like this figure is disassembling and crumbling external structures that are trying to hold sway or power or control over her. So I really like this depiction a lot.
I see it as the lightning coming down and the rocks going up.
Yeah, I can see both.
Like, the rocks aren't coming down to her, are they? Maybe another day I'll look at it and I'll see it differently, but I see that the rocks may have been surrounding the figure, and then the lightning came down, but the rocks, instead of falling down, are falling up.
I think you can make a case for either. I
Yeah.
can see I can see both as being totally possible.
Yeah. And I love the color scheme of that card. Love it.
Mhm. I have our collection of words: a shaking to the foundation, destabilization, devastation, shock and suddenness, upheaval, crisis, collapse, crumbling, a breakdown, shattering, disruption, splitting, rupture. We mentioned chaos, I think, towards the beginning of the podcast. In Greek mythology, chaos is the primordial void. It is absolute immortality, creation, and destruction, and it is the origin of all existence. With the Tower card, there's also a feeling of inevitability or divine intervention. I've heard this card described as the gift you cannot give yourself. It's also sort of in line with this idea of the divine or the universe doing for me what I could not do for myself.
Mm-hmm.
This ties into the yods that Christina talked about earlier. We talked about the yods in the moon tarot card episode. And in that episode, we talked about the yods being divine knowledge. And we also talked about how the yod is a rare astrological aspect called the finger of fate. And also with the tower, we can think about realignment, trust, surrender, liberation, breakthroughs, an opening, transformation, enlightenment, illumination, the lightning bolt, and truth being revealed. A couple of ideas for the tower in reverse, and I would say this is definitely not an exhaustive list, but just some ideas. The need to process trauma, the need to process a sudden or life-changing event more thoroughly. The tower in reverse could be trying to make us aware of clinging to our comfort zones, being afraid of change or refusing to change, being disillusioned or embittered. And I love this one. The worst is behind you.
In the Secrets of the Witch's Garden, they have the question to ask yourself to write the reversal. What am I holding back from? Are you ready for the message from the universe? The messages from the universe. And the way these cards reveal themselves to me, there's 2 cards. So you pick 1 or 2, and then there's a third card that is for the overall. It's for everybody. It's for the overall. So 1 or 2. Card 1 is transitioning. Card 13. The sacred cycle of birth, life, death, and birth again is eternally recurring. Every new life is a fresh beginning, a journey with its potential yet to be realized. Death is another passage that we recognize as a departure into some mysterious unknown. At both points of transition from one world to the other, everything changes. The familiar is totally left behind. If birth and death are viewed from the perspective that nothing is ever lost, then we can see that existence is always in the process of weaving every particle into a vast and interconnected celestial body. There is a marvelous ribboning externally connecting everyone and everything beyond the confines of time and space. In our own lifetime, many actual and metaphorical death, births, and rebirths occur as the old makes way for the new. Every fresh start plays a vital role in the great cycling of existence as it interlaces expansion and closure, filling and emptying. On a personal level, when subtle signals of an inner revolution arises, the outcome is unknown and even unknowable. A sea change is imminent that could manifest in any part of your life. By loving yourself through this transition, in fear and in joy, you'll be utterly transformed, and you will know that every aspect of your journey so far was essential for this rebirth to happen. And the next card is repression. Many of us have been taught from childhood that anger is bad and expressing it improper. Life isn't fair, we're told. That's just the way it is. We should just suck it up and move on. So when anger or a sense of injustice arises, we stuff it down, repress it. Often we condemn and blame ourselves for having those horrible feelings in the first place. However, it's precisely our untamed, fierce nature that empowers our capacity to endure against all odds by expressing an intense focus or response that doesn't back down when confronted. Anger festers when repressed. The gnawing discomfort rises from our unacceptable thoughts and feelings that need to escape the tight lid we've kept on them. This image encourages you to unearth and befriend the unruly, visceral aspects of your nature. Living in fear of this quality keeps you fragmented, afraid to stand up for yourself, and set yourself free. This inner alchemy transforms damaged goods into treasure, and acknowledging the good, the bad, and the ugly unshackles the power of your wild, primitive heart and transforms fear into courage.
Wow.
So this is the Death card and the Devil card side by side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And the message for this whole reading for everybody is timing.
Aww.
There is little difference in the maturation process of a plant or a person. For both, there are stages when the safe and familiar must be shed. Becoming never returns to what was. When our usual coping styles no longer serve us, there is a gap when everything feels disconnected, vulnerable. That unnerving space is a dynamic trigger for change. Observing the shifting emotional climate within yourself and those around you. Observe how the mind translates difficulties as problems because they slow progress, disrupting our preferences and plans. When life tests us, it signals imminent change is at hand that cannot be ignored. After the unexpected, growth and innovation are sure to follow. As the old undergoes this makeover, tune into the bigger picture. Awkward times are perfect for clarifying objectives, strengthening core values, and birthing new ways of living and being. Respect the wisdom of life. Its timing is not a hit or miss affair. Be gentle with yourself and others. Every life is a work in progress. There is no free pass for avoiding the gritty stuff. No bouquet for growing up. Inner flowering arises out of trial and error, weathering storms and overcoming obstacles. It is how strong roots take hold and wisdom arises. This flowering is you.
Now I know why you got a strong, intuitive hit to pull from
Yeah.
that deck. Wow.
Yeah. Some amazing imagery as always with the sacred she, and we will have those cards. But I was surprised. And then I showed Nicole, listeners, on the back of this card is a full moon in a cloudy sky. So I think the full moon was really talking to me about this deck this morning.
Yeah, those were great. Thank you, universe.
Thank you, universe.
Next week, we're back with our first card for Taurus season, the Hierophant.
I'm going to get spicy on that one.
Yeah, we're going to save all the spiciness for next week. Until then, listeners, thank you. We love you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. The Radical Podcast is created and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Music by Van Horton. His Instagram is Van Horton Music. Stay in touch with us at linktr.ee/theradicalpodnc.